So you know what I just don't really like about the world nowadays is how misinformation has just become like part of the culture nowadays. Like so for example, like a week or two ago I was talking to somebody and it doesn't matter who it was, like it's not relevant, but this person who's a nice person and all, but they're really into like really right wing kind of QAnon type of shit. Like they believe the 2020 election, was fraudulent and that it was a complete scam and that Trump got robbed of the presidency in 2020, which is just not the case. I mean, like you got all the evidence. I watched the election. I watch all the elections. All right, I stay up until like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I watch the whole thing all the way through. They're usually pretty boring. You get like a quarter of the way through and you realize who's probably gonna win right away. But like in the 2020 election, the 2024 election, they're just like normal, boring elections, honestly. Like there was nothing going on there. But the same person, so like a week ago, I was talking to them and they were like, I don't remember how the topic came up, but they're talking about how all the laws in the US are based on Christian morals and values and on the Bible, and all the founding fathers were all biblical people and all this other stuff. And then it kind of goes down the rabbit hole. Like he's starts going into like, well, the Bible was written 6,000 years ago and not much existed before that. So, kind of into the young earth creation stuff, which, again, obviously, young earth creationism is complete bullshit. Like, and I'm not going after Christianity. They're not the only religion with some whacked out beliefs on the earth being mythically created. You got every religion's got the mythical literalism, but like, and all of this misinformation is just in the culture in a lot of places. Like, I know I was tonight, for example, I was talking to somebody and we got into, I don't want to say it was an argument, but like it was on the internet, so it was had about the depth of conversation as you get on the internet, but talking about vaccines, and this person is going on and like, well, I'm anti-vax. Not me, this person. They're anti-vax because they got vaccinated and suddenly they're sick with this other unrelated thing, and how their relative got a vaccine and then they ended up having a heart attack, and then this other one had a vaccine and he had a stroke later on, and um you know it almost kind of sounds like that one joke from Family Guy, where he's like, oh yeah, I knew a guy who bought a used car once and then 6 months later, bam, herpes. It sounds like that. And we're going back and forth, me and this person, and I, I'm linking articles to like the World Health Organization and the CDC and other groups, universities and stuff, talking about vaccines and how they're not causing these. And this person is linking stuff like this Telegram conversation where people just go to complain about vaccines, or they're linking this like one clip of Bill Gates where he makes some offhanded joke about, well, if we take vaccines and reproduction and really hone it in, we can drop the population a little bit. Because he was talking about something else. I don't remember what it was exactly, but he was talking about something else. And if the population got lower, the human population, then it would affect these other things. So he made this like offhanded joke there. But they clipped it out of context for this. And so the the point is though is that I'm linking all of this like actual scientific stuff, again, the CDC, the WHO, all these groups, and this person is just kind of like disregarding it. They're going like, Oh, the World Health Organization? Are you serious? Like, who else exactly did they want? And the problem is that collectively with all these people, and these aren't the only two examples, but I'm not going to keep ranting about that, but basically it's like you have and it, you have the sum total of all human knowledge literally at your fingertips. And I know that it's also like the sum total of all misinformation at your fingertips too, but it's so easy though to find reliable sources. Like it took me not even 30 seconds to find the World Health Organization website and the CDC website and to go into there and get actual researched, peer-reviewed information from scientists who are experts in the field. Like it did not take very long. And I don't think it's not because it's hard to do. It's just because people get into hold on a second. Switch hands. My hand's getting tired here. The fact is though is that I have no idea. I think at some point people just believe what they want to believe and you just get into that mindset where some people are like, well, I'm going to believe this. This is my thing. I'm not admitting that I'm wrong. And I think that's probably a giant part of it. People just don't want to admit that they're wrong. And so they'll go to the very extreme and they'll be like, well, uh, the government's trying to wipe out millions of its own people with a vaccine virus mysterious thing uh, because they want to control the population because the government's not controlling the population already. Like, and I never understand the logic there. Like, why would the government want to get rid of millions of its own people? The dead don't pay taxes. Like, that's what the government cares about is taxes. They want your money. They want your hard-earned cash, all right? And the government doesn't want to go out and get rid of millions of taxpayers, all right? They want the money. They want the people. They want the people's money, all right? And you just get to the point where people believe what they want and you just get tired of seeing it because it's not hard to find reliable information. It's not hard to find articles written by people with expertise in the field who can tell you that no, vaccines don't cause autism. Vaccines aren't going to give you a stroke or they're not going to give you HIV or anything like that. And I don't even know. Some people they go on to like Telegram or they go on to Twitter or God's forbid they go on to 4chan. You know, there's good stuff on 4chan. There's also a lot of dumb shit on 4chan, but they just find this stuff and get into the mindset and they just won't accept anything else. And I think that's part of it. They just don't accept that they're wrong. And I think that's kind of what separates the scientific the scientific minded people and the conspiracy minded people is admitting that they don't know everything right away. Like scientists, they're gonna admit that they're not knowing everything, that they don't know everything. They're gonna admit that, yeah, we're gonna get some stuff wrong. You go into any scientific field, it's changing all the time because they're getting stuff wrong or they're proving new stuff and disproving other stuff. You go into these conspiracies and they're still talking about the same chemtrail nonsense that they were talking about 40 years ago. All right. Or you get into these like mythical literalists who will believe that like some divine being, and not just like all religions have those people who will believe the mythic literalism, but and they'll get into this mindset that the world works a certain way. I know how it works. It works that way, and nothing's changing my mind. And that's kind of the dividing line I think between the people who are, you know, the people who are willing to accept that they're wrong and the people who aren't, and that's kind of where the issues start, I think. And yeah, ultimately, I think it's just kind of frustrating that, like, a lot of the people I know who, again, they're nice people and all, they're good people and all, but you just, it's all over the place now, and it's not hard to find the information, so it's just kind of frustrating though. So, yeah, I don't know. Just venting about having to hear some really dumbass conspiracies sometimes. So, yeah.